What happens if you eat thermal paste? I don't mean accidentally having a little bit on your hands while eating a snack, I mean full-on main entree consumption. As always, please don't try this at home, because doing so would likely give you a gnarly tummy ache that would require medical attention. But there's a side effect of eating thermal paste that I guarantee you'll never expect. This is Paul Carrison, and there's no editing or even makeup involved in what you're seeing here. Paul's skin tone really was blue despite growing up with a fair complexion and red hair. The cause of this is a very rare condition known as argyria, which turns not just your skin blue, but also your eyes, nails, and even internal organs the same color. And while thankfully argyria is not a fatal condition, it is a permanent one, meaning that no amount of showering, scrubbing, or washing will ever get rid of the bluish tone. And that's because the color's not on the skin, but rather underneath it. Specifically, it's a buildup of silver in the body's mucous membrane. And while Paul here contracted this condition from drinking a silver-infused dietary drink over the course of many years, guess where else silver can be found as a main ingredient? And that's right, your good old-fashioned tube of thermal paste. The silver ends up having great thermal conductivity, which is exactly what thermal paste is looking for. And while not every brand of thermal paste uses silver, if we look at the best-selling brands on Newegg, Arctic Silver 5 sits at the very top. And as its name suggests, it does in fact contain trace amounts of silver in each of its tubes. Meaning that if you happen to eat thousands and thousands and thousands of these tubes of thermal paste over the course of many years, you would eventually contract argyria and your skin would turn blue forever. Yet another reason why you should never consume thermal paste, which does beg the question, is it possible to create a thermal compound that looks like thermal paste, conducts heat like thermal paste, but doesn't taste awful or turn you blue like thermal paste? To find out, I gathered the top 3 thermal paste alternatives that I've tested on this channel over the past couple of years: toothpaste, honey, and hand lotion. Here's the thermal paste that we'll be attempting to fully replicate aside from the taste. You'll notice that it's a bit darker, and so as we start by applying honey onto our CPU, we'll also have to break out the gray food coloring, which is not only 100% safe to consume, it'll also give us a tint of that darker color. But now that means we have to address the viscosity, because it's still a bit too runny here. To handle that, we'll add just a dollop of vanilla frosting, which significantly improves the texture while also lightening up the palette, leading to what honestly looks exactly like our thermal paste. And on top of that, this combination is honestly straight up delicious. We'll repeat this process with both our toothpaste and our hand lotion, leaving us with a total of 3 homemade thermal paste alternatives that look surprisingly convincing. For a visual score, the honey and frosting definitely comes out on top, and our other 2 options aren't half bad either. But these visual replicas don't mean anything if they can't perform under pressure. So now it's time for the moment of truth. As a quick baseline, normal thermal paste in this PC keeps our processor at around 48 degrees Celsius at max usage. And now with our honey and frosting in our PC instead, we can measure the temperature of the CPU with this top line graph, which under load, we see initially spike before quickly plateauing around 52 degrees Celsius. Honestly, pretty impressive, despite these measurements being only in the short term. But removing the cooler reveals just how desolate the CPU looks, even after a few minutes. As we swap gears over to our darkened toothpaste, we end up seeing a very similar performance graph, again peaking at around 52 degrees. On top of that, here you can see what happens when our gray food coloring gets really stretched out. Looks like it might actually just be very dark blue food coloring after all. Now, if you thought honey and toothpaste performed well in our PC, just wait till we throw in this darkened lotion. This bad boy ends up staying at or below 50 degrees Celsius during our entire test, a solid 2 degrees cooler than its competition. This means that all of these thermal paste alternatives are at least 90% as effective as using normal thermal paste in the short term in this PC, which honestly I gotta chalk up as a win when it comes to performance, but that also means it's time for the taste test. Although before we chow down on these thermal paste alternatives, our appetizer for this evening is a taste of today's video sponsor, Keeper Security. You know as well as I do that passwords are an essential part of staying safe online, but if you're still using the same basic password on all of your accounts, well, you're not nearly as secure as you might think. And on the flip side, if you're using a bunch of super complex unique passwords, that's a lot better, but let's be honest, how many times do you have to reset those passwords because they're super easy to forget? It's time for a streamlined password management solution like Keeper. Keeper gives you the convenience of storing all of your passwords in a secure personal vault, while also allowing these passwords to stay super complex due to it also autofilling and remembering them for all of your apps and websites, giving you the best of both security and convenience. Personally, I've been using Keeper to store not just my passwords, but also to store important identity files like pictures of my passport or driver's license. And knowing that I can securely access these kinds of files from anywhere I am on any device gives me a ton of peace of mind, especially when I'm out traveling. Overall, the Keeper platform is incredibly secure, built on top of a zero trust, zero knowledge model. So if you're looking to join the millions of others who have already taken this step of simplifying their personal cybersecurity, then be sure to check out all that Keeper has to offer. You can use the link down below for an additional 50% off or use code mryeester for the same discount. Thank you to Keeper for sponsoring this video. And now back to our main entree. We already know the honey and frosting combo tastes like heaven. After all, it's sugar on top of more sugar. What more could you ask for? Even the darkened toothpaste tastes not half bad because of all the minty freshness. But now it's time to taste our darkened lotion. And let me tell you, this one tasted disgusting. I'm not sure why I thought this was gonna taste reasonably okay, probably because it smells good, but it does not taste good. But now we know that if you have an insatiable, deep down desire to consume the substance responsible for transferring heat between your CPU and cooler, that this compound right here, honey, frosting, and gray food coloring, is certainly the way to go. And not only can it effectively run inside of your PC, it can also effectively cure your sweet tooth. And honestly, I'm so impressed with this concoction that I think it's time to find some VC funding for it. Hello sharks! As we all know in this room, wanting to eat things that you're not supposed to is the next billion-dollar market. Look no further than the concept of forbidden snacks. Items that are tantalizingly tasty to the eyes, but devastatingly disallowed to the mouth. Perhaps the most infamous example of this trait is this fabulous soda, with its label filled with juicy-looking fruits and flavors. Except for the fact that it's not a soda at all. In fact, it's an all-purpose cleaner, not meant to be consumed by anybody. And yet, at a quick glance, your lizard brain lights up with the thought of tasting its sweet, delectable, yet dangerous internal nectar. I'm looking at you, Mark. I know you want to sip of this. And if that doesn't convince you, check out this photo of this freshly fried chicken tender. My mouth is watering just looking at it, except for the fact that this is actually crystal calcite. It's a rock. And yet, even knowing it's a rock, I bet 3 of you still want to take a taste just to see what happens. And that's just human nature, baby. We all want to taste. You see this finely grilled burrito? Nope, it's a rust-stained tarp on the side of a street. Delicious looking bowls of ice cream? Not even close. This is the inside of golf balls. The list goes on and on and on. But the one thread that all of these forbidden foods have in common is that the marketing makes itself. If you have consumers posting photos of these types of non-food products talking about how dangerous they are because they look so edible, you'll never have to pay for any other type of exposure. Sure, you might have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 lawsuits that you need to pay out when people do inevitably act on these urges, but that's a problem for the future, because right now, this is an opportunity. So sharks, today I'm here to flip the script. Instead of just making inedible products look edible, I'm going a step further and actually turning it into something that you can and will want to eat over and over and over again. Millions upon millions of tech enthusiasts decide each year to build computers. And I'll bet you that at least a small portion of those people have thought about tasting that tantalizing gray goo that goes between their CPU and cooler. And that, sharks, is our market. With your help, we can satisfy one more forbidden food out in the world with the ultimate forbidden snack, the edible thermal paste.
Get the out of here.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you for your time. I'll see you later.